talking about diagnostic versus surgical endoscopies and arthroscopies in the musculoskeletal system and going on through the surgery section of the CPT. If you look at the endoscopy, arthroscopy section in your chapter, in your musculoskeletal system chapter, you can pause me to get to that spot. It says arthroscopy is often the treatment of choice for many orthopedic surgical type procedures. Your incisions are much smaller. It decreases the risk of infection. It speeds up recovery time. Several small incisions are made through which maybe a light mirror instruments might be inserted through. And they show us a picture down below. Arthroscopy codes are located at the end of the musculoskeletal system subsection. If multiple procedures are performed through a scope, they're reported with a modifier 51. You put that most expensive, most intensive one first, and then line the others up, underneath that. Bundled into all surgical arthroscopic procedure codes is the diagnostic arthroscopy. That sentence is super important. I'll say it again. Bundled into all surgical arthroscopic procedures is the diagnostic arthroscopic procedure. You must not unbundle and report a diagnostic arthroscopy and a surgical arthroscopy if both were performed during the same encounter, the same time, everything. Don't report both of them. Do not report separately services performed during a procedure that are considered part of the procedure, integral, like shaving, removing, evacuating, casting, splinting, or strapping. The difference between diagnostic and surgical in any endoscopies or arthroscopies. A diagnostic anything, the easiest way to remember is they're looking for the diagnosis. Diagnostic has diagnosis in it. If you have a diagnostic colonoscopy, we're looking for the reason that the patient's having symptoms. Okay, we don't know yet. Okay, a surgical colonoscopy means we know that there's an issue. Maybe there's polyps that need to be removed. We're going in there to take something out or fix something, okay, surgically. Diagnostic means we're going to go in and look around and figure out what's wrong with this patient in this area. Surgical means we already know what's wrong with this patient. We're going to go in and fix it. See the difference between those two? Between diagnostic versus surgical anything? Okay. If you turn the page, they talk about it a little bit more in between the two coding shots. And it really just says if you have a procedure that began as a diagnostic procedure, which is often the case, we're going to go in and look around and see what's going on. Something's wrong. We don't know what. And then it converts to a surgical procedure. Okay, this happens very often as well. Only that surgical procedure is reported. It goes on to say the reimbursement for the surgical procedure is higher than the reimbursement for the diagnostic procedure. For example, one payer's reimbursement was $424.86 for the diagnostic procedure and $979.21 for the surgical procedure. This can happen if they go in. Let's say the colonoscopy example, like I talked about before, they went in diagnostically because the patient has been having some issues, maybe blood in their stools. So they do a diagnostic colonoscopy to go in and find the diagnosis, see what's wrong. Once they get in there, if they come upon a couple of polyps, okay, that's definitely what's been going on, and we need to remove them. Do we just pull the scope out and tell the patient later that they have polyps and we need to go in and we need to remove them? So can you come back next week? Or while they're in there already and they find the polyps, they just switched horses in the middle of the stream. It just converted to a surgical procedure. we're going to take them polyps out. We just found them. We didn't know they were there when we started, but we found them. While we're in there, we're going to get them and get them out. Okay, that now became a surgical colonoscopy because they removed something. They took care of something, correct? Does that make sense? So we need to make sure that we keep that in our minds when we see anything diagnostic and anything surgical. And if we see it diagnostic, read carefully that report to make sure it didn't end up turning out to be surgical. Because a lot of times we switch horses midstream like that. We go in looking for the reason soon as we find it. And if we can take care of it right then, why not? Why make the patient be re-prepped and re-draped and have another appointment and have to wait and come back again if we can take care of it right now? Okay, so the difference between diagnostic and surgical is very important. I think this might be the first time that they talk about it and that we've talked about it in class. Boy, you're going to hear a lot about it throughout the rest of your time in the program too, because it's all over in the rest of the chapters and in advanced coding as well. So make sure that you can make sense with that with yourself before we move further, okay?